Hey guys, my name's Jacob. I'm from Kansas, just like you, and I live in California now, and I work at JPL. JPL stands for NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and we do robotics and spacecraft and lots of other really fun stuff. And I'm excited that I get to drop in and tell you guys a little bit about what I do and how I got there. So thanks for letting me drop in on your last day of class. I enjoyed reading all of your questions. They were really good. And I also heard that you were working on Lego Mindstorms, which is awesome. When I was your age, I did stuff just like that in school. And that was actually one of the first things that got me into robotics. And I'll tell you, first off, it's not that far off. It's not that much different than what I do as a robotics engineer. What I do is a little bit more sophisticated, but on a very basic level. It's building things that sense the environment, plan out some kind of action, and then do it. And it's all the building blocks that you're making right now. So I guess I kind of already started this, but I'll just go through some of your questions. I grouped them up a little bit for similar questions that have kind of the same answer. So I guess I'll just get right into it. So one person asked, do you build robots? I kind of gave that away already, but yes. And what are some of the projects you've worked on, and what's the latest project that you're working on? So yeah, my job is to build robots. Technically, I'm a mechanical engineer, and I'm in a group called Extreme Environment Robotics. So basically, that just means I make robots that go into really crazy places, really hot places, cold places, outer space, different planets, things like that. And it's a lot of fun. Right now, I'm working on a few different things. One of them is called Visage, and it's a robot to go to the planet Venus, which, if any of you guys know, Venus is one of the hottest planets. It's actually 4 times hotter than the temperature of boiling water on the surface, and it's 100 times higher pressure than Earth. So it's really hard. It's a very extreme environment. It's really hard to make robots that work in that environment, but we're working on it. And if it goes, when it gets there, it'll drill into the surface, get a bunch of dirt, analyze it, and then send back information to Earth so that we can see what Venus is made of. Another robot I'm working on is called Puffer. It's a little tiny robot like this big, and it might go to the moon in the next few years. And it's basically just a little platform that you can put different kind of sensors on. So it's going to shoot to the moon, it's going to drop out, and just a bunch of them are going to drive around and have lots of different science instruments to figure out more science about the moon. And then my favorite one is called Dasher. And that stands for Deployable Antarctic Sheet Exploration Rover. So basically, this robot is it's about this big, and it is going to have what's called a ground-penetrating radar. What that is it's a radar that shoots into the ground. And so if it's driving along, it can see below the surface of the ground. And if there's a cave or a tunnel or rocks or whatever, it'll be able to see below the ground and map out what it's driving over. So the purpose of it is we would be able to send it to Antarctica and drive it along the ice sheets. And one of the things that scientists are really worried about right now is climate change. So we want to know, one of the side effects of climate change is that the ice in the poles of Earth will melt. And if the ice melts, then the sea levels rise. And if sea levels rise, then lots of bad stuff happens all over the world. So one thing we want to know is how much the ice is melting. So the idea is we fly a plane over Antarctica and then drop out a bunch of robots. And then they're going to go to the surface and drive around and use that ground penetrating radar to actually measure how much ice is there. And then they'll stay in Antarctica and do that for months and months, and then we'll be able to track how much ice is there and how much melted. So I actually have a picture of that. I'm going to try to pull it up and show you right here. So that's Dasher. It's my favorite robot that I'm working on right now. It's a lot of fun. And since you asked next, do you use a CAD system? The answer is absolutely yes. And here is a picture of the CAD for Dasher. So this design was SolidWorks. I mostly use SolidWorks right now, but I've also used NX, CATIA, and Autodesk Inventor. They're all different CAD softwares. We use CAD a lot. The way that the design cycle works is we'll come up with an idea for a robot, and we'll sketch out some ideas, do some math, and things like that. And then when we are ready to design it, we use CAD software. We design in the CAD software, and then we tweak it however we want. And then once it's done, we build it, and then we test it. And then what we learn from testing, we incorporate back into redesigning. And you just go around in that loop and make design iterations and make them better and better. All right, next question is, what's the average time length of one project? It really depends a lot, actually. For me, I'm more in the research and development side, which is smaller robots. I don't work on anything as big as a Mars rover. So for me, it's anywhere from 6 months to 2 or 3 years. But for people who work on a really, really big project like the Mars rover, or one of the spacecraft that's going to go around other planets like Cassini that was around Saturn, those people can work on it for 20 years, their entire career. If they start from the idea and then designing it and then building it and then sending it out into space. Sometimes it takes 7 or 8 years flying through space just for the spacecraft to get to the planet that it wants to go to before it even does anything. So it's a long process, but it creates a lot of really interesting science. All right, next question. Have you ever considered quitting? No, I love my job, and every day I wake up and I'm excited to build robots. So next question is, what's the hardest challenge you face in your career so far? This is actually a really good question. That was a hard one. And this is might not make sense to you guys right now, but actually the most difficult thing that I've had to deal with so far is figuring out how to estimate how much time and money something's going to take. So we'll be in a meeting and someone will say, hey, Jacob, we need you to build this thing. How long do you think it's going to take and how much money is it going to cost? And I am horrible at that. It's just something that you only get through experience. But that's probably the hardest challenge of my job right now. Next question is, have you ever been hurt on the job? Actually, no, thankfully. There are a lot of dangerous things about mechanical engineering and robotics, and so we really take safety seriously. And then the next set of questions is all kind of about how did you get your job and what path did you take? So first question is, how did you get into mechanical engineering? I always just liked building stuff and taking things apart and seeing how they worked. Probably like a lot of you guys, if you're building the Lego Mindstorms and you just really enjoy thinking about how to put the Legos together and how to make things move. That was just like me, and that's kind of what mechanical engineering is figuring out the physical things that come together and how motors make wheels move and how those make a robot move and all that kind of stuff. And that's actually the next question. Why did you choose this job and what do you like about it? One of the reasons I picked this job is I get to do that every day. So the cool thing about robotics is that every robot is new and different and exciting. And every time there's a new challenge, like, oh, we want to measure the ice in Antarctica, that's a unique robot that's going to take time to figure out how it's going to work, and someone's going to have to design it and build it, and that's the kind of thing that I get to do, so that's why I chose this job. What are the skills needed to get the job? That's another question. And I would say, in general, being creative and a good problem solver, and honestly just being willing to work really hard. There are other things that will help, like being good at math or being good at programming or things like that. But if you don't think that you're good at math or you don't think that you're good at programming or anything like that, don't let that discourage you. One of the questions was, do you have a partner or a team that you work with on your projects? And the answer is yeah, all of them. And so there are different people who are good at different things that work on the same robot. So for me, I'm really not good at programming. I'll do it if I have to, but I'm not going to do a very good job. But I'm really good at the mechanical engineering side of it and designing. And my friend who works on Dasher with me is really good at programming and electronics. And so he and I make a good team. We're both working on the robot together, and we have 4 or 5 different people who are all good at different things. One guy's good at the radar, and one girl's good at all the sensors, and we all come together to make the team happen. And it's like that with every project. Let's see. What college did I choose? How did I get my job? How long did it take to get your job? When I graduated from high school, I went to MIT in Boston. And when I got there, during the summers, you can do something called an internship. And it basically means that you are a temporary employee of a company. You kind of learn the ropes, and they give you a small project to work on. And so I did those every summer, and worked my way up to better internships. And one of the internships I did was at JPL. And so when I got there, I spent the summer working on robots and got a chance to learn what it was all about, and also got a chance to show them that I was a good engineer. And that kind of opened the door for when I graduated. And then when I was at MIT, I also did research in a robotics lab. And so I kind of focused on a lot of robotics competitions and robotics classes and internships and things like that kind of opened up the door to let me work at JPL right out of college. And okay, so now that was all of the job-related questions, and you guys also sent in some fun bonus questions. Do I play Fortnite? Unfortunately, no. I have heard a lot about it, and I know that it's all the rage with you kids, but I have never actually played it. I used to play video games a lot when I was in high school and middle school, but I don't much anymore. What Harry Potter house am I? Gryffindor, duh. What was my favorite subject in school? Math and science. Have I met any astronauts? Actually, yeah. One of the professors at MIT was an astronaut. His name is Jeff Hoffman. Here's a picture of me and him. Jeff went on 5 flights into space, and one of those flights he fixed the Hubble telescope when it was in orbit, which is really awesome. Let's see, what's my favorite robot? Okay, you guys are gonna go down a rabbit hole here, but you should go to YouTube and look up a company called Boston Dynamics. Boston Dynamics makes some of the coolest robots, in my opinion, some of the coolest robots in the world. They have one called Spot that walks around, looks like a dog. They make one called Atlas that runs around like a person. And they're just doing all kinds of really neat stuff. Alright, what's my favorite meme? There's one going around these days that's like Pikachu with his mouth open. That one's really funny. Do I like cats or dogs better? Dogs. And have I ever gone skydiving or done anything else spontaneous? Yeah, actually skydiving is super fun. I've only done it once, but it felt like I was flying. I know everybody says that, but it really does feel that way. And actually, since that's the last question, I'll end with a fun video that's kind of like skydiving. So one of the other things that I do at JPL is I test equipment and I test robots. And one of the things that you need to do to test something that's going to go into space is to test how it performs in zero gravity. So except for going into space, the only way to experience zero gravity is on what's called a parabolic flight. So basically what happens is you have an airplane that flies up in the air like this, and then just falls straight out of the sky, and then it goes back up again, and then it falls. And each one of these is called, I don't know what math class you guys are taking right now, but eventually you'll learn about how to do the math for parabolas, and that's what the plane does, is it goes on a parabola. And each time it falls, it's in free fall, and when you learn the physics of that, you'll realize that things in space are actually in free fall too. And so it is the identical physics of being in outer space is when you fall in this plane. And so when we want to test something that's going to be in space, we test it on those planes. And I've gotten to fly on 3 or 4 of those flights. And here's a video of me doing a triple backflip on one of them. So that was a super fun field test. And I actually forgot I missed one more question. One of you asked, have you seen a rocket launch in person? And that is also yes. It's one of the coolest things ever. So when I was doing the internships during the summers at MIT, I worked at SpaceX for a couple summers too. And I got to work on some rockets and got to watch some rocket launches from Mission Control. But there was actually a rocket launch in the recent past, while I've been working at JPL, that flew out of a place called Vandenberg, which is in California. And that rocket flew over Los Angeles such that everybody in the city could actually see it. And it was really spectacular. This is what it looked like. And now that's actually it. So thanks again for letting me talk to you guys. I hope your semester went really well, and I hope you learned a lot from playing with the LEGO Mindstorms and learning robotics. So if you guys have any other questions, your teacher has my email. You can feel free to ask me anything else you want. And I'd be happy to tell you about more robots. So have a great Christmas break.